we talked about some of what we're doing to make Tough Mudder tougher again, and how we're looking to just reposition the brand a little bit. And we alluded to the fact there was some product changes coming, and those include getting rid of, exiting, winding down, however you want to describe it, the 5, 10, and 15K products. So starting in 2024, we will return to Tough Mudder just being Tough Mudder, a single format, back to 10 plus miles, on the plus side of 10 plus miles, which is ideal. That's a pretty big change for us. We've been moving since half, actually, which I think we made our first misstep on. We've walked quite a long way down a path, and as we've reflected on some of the unintended consequences, and as we've really thought about what we want to do with a brand in the future, we're making a change of path here.
Well, I think to me, 10 didn't make sense. I think the 5K did. And I think I spoke about this previously. I'm sure I did, where let's get people out. 10 miles is a lot, and let's just get people out. And then if they do it, they'll be like, hey, I'll want to come back, right? So having 5, 10, and 15 at once didn't quite make sense to me. But having the 5, so my question is, from a business perspective, I know that if there's a race in my neighborhood and there's a 5K and a 10K, there's more 5K signups. If there's a marathon and a half, there's more half signups. So are the numbers not good? Or is it just we're just tired of confusion for the brand and we just want to be good old 2011 Tough Mudder?
I think, I think it's actually not based on the numbers. 5K and 10K have done quite well for us. I think rather it's us looking at what the brand value is built upon and really trying to focus on how we can, provide the most to our customers with the formats that Tough Mudder provides, right? And although I think we're really proud of what we've done with 5 and 10K, they're both a very, our 5K is a very Tough Mudder 5K. You get shocked, you get ice, you get that sort of stuff. It's really cool, and you get a flavor of the brand. But as we took a step back and looked at it, of what really gives you that sense of true accomplishment when you cross the finish line, this is an area where Spartan and Tough Mudder are so different. Spartan events are hard by nature of the fact that they're a race. You can run a 5K really fast and be flat out on your back. You don't need the long mileage, although they do have those formats as well. Tough Mudder is really challenging by the nature of the fact that you're out there for a long time. You're doing these obstacles that are both mentally and physically taxing. I think, at least for me, like the anticipation of electricity coming 2 hours from now exhausts me the entire race, because you're just focusing on these other elements. And it's just really hard for us to extract that type of anticipation and clout that you get, from the full Tough Mudder experience when you're only going to be out there for an hour. You can just kind of walk through the 5K and you get a little bit of a flavor for it. But we think it's really, really important, going forward, that when people finish a Tough Mudder, they finish the full thing. And maybe you pay for that up front by doing a lot of training and getting ready and coming out. And Tough Mudder is this thing you need to prep for now. Or maybe you just go at it with pure mental grit and you pay for it the week ahead when you're hobbling around because you didn't train. Like, there's still multiple ways to approach it. But we think having that one thing that has a lot of status behind it's really important for the future of the brand.
Do you want to add anything, Giles?
Yeah, I think Chris has nailed the brand component perfectly, as you would expect. There is obviously a business element to this as well. The idea, is that the short formats feed the long formats, but in practice that doesn't really happen. And you say, hey, if a race is 5K and 10K that you go to, more people go to the 5K. I think that's true. If you can do something via an easier route, often people choose that route. If the race only had 10K, do the 5K people just not show up? Some, for sure. But actually, I think a lot of people opt in. Where we worked on the hypothesis that, hey, we'll get these people in at 5K, they just don't. They do the 5K, they're one and done, and they don't repeat at the same rate. they don't have the same resonance of experience that they might have over an experience that was 4 or 5 hours. That was more physically challenging. That exposed them to the full set of obstacle interactions and mental challenges. And so the lifetime value of the customer, the way we're able to impact them, their willingness to engage with our community, to really be an advocate, to just leave Tough Mudder and it be the thing that they talk about is so very different if they've interacted with us in a 10+ mile format. And we keep using distance to differentiate, but really it shouldn't be about the distance or 5K. There are a number of other elements if you would like to explore as well. But I saw you with your phone. He's like, he's got questions. Matt has questions. So hit me up.
Well, it's interesting because the first thought I have is like, I think everyone, a lot of people, we love that. We love the let's go back to how it was, right? So my first thought was like, can we just go all in on it? Can we get giant coffins back at World's Toughest? Can we get just a headband with like nothing on it? It was just like you kill yourself for 5 hours, you get this fucking orange thing that like, I mean, I doubt you guys would do anything without branding on it these days, but that's kind of what I was thinking. So, Chris, I know you've been around Tough Mudder a long time. I know you're like me, a student of the game. Like, have you thought about that? Like, what can we do to go all the way back to set back the clock?
I mean, we've done a lot of reflection, both with swag and things like that, but also just on the product itself. You know, we've done entire presentations around obstacles that we've had since 2010, 2011, and what they looked like then and what they look like now to really help us get back to the heart of what the product was. And we're already making those changes for this year in some instances. I think we might have talked a little in Atlanta. You know, you look at something like an Arctic enema, and with time, it sort of mutated from this really intense ice bath to like a slide into cold water, right? And it was kind of good, but the heart of Arctic enema was the fact that you popped up with your head surrounded by ice cubes and it was so cold that you were borderline going into shock. And that happened in a bunch of little places. You know, barbed wire got a little higher, things got a little shorter. You know, we started to adapt for easy setup versus the real experience. And so we're looking on an obstacle by obstacle basis at how to make them harder and how to get them back to the intention of what they were. You look at something like a trench warfare, a really simple obstacle. You know, we were digging up these old videos and photos with pictures of people popping out of holes like this in the ground, like faces red, pure, like truly freaked out from how claustrophobic it was. And you know, you can make things that look sort of like that with time, but just the longer you go. So we're doing a real product reset in that regard. I think for things like headbands, we're really excited to get to this place where we can go back to crowning somebody with just the orange headband. And you're right, it'll have the logo on it. But you know, for anyone who's been with us through the years, the finish line experience has really changed as we've introduced new formats. You come across the finish line, you're excited, but you can't just get crowned, right? Are you getting crowned with a 5, a 10, a 15K? What did you do? And there's this break in the experience right at the moment where you're most excited about what you just did. You just ran through electroshock. You're on this crazy high. And instead of being able to get a headband put on, you have to have a conversation about what you earned and all of that. So, you know, there very much is that sort of simplification that enables us to re-empower the whole experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. You just made me think back to one of the times, like I remember a Georgia event where I had run Saturday, and then on Sunday I was really tired. I think I'd run another race that morning, just like somewhere else. And when I came through, Peter, who runs with me all the time now, I think Peter, my friend John Tackett, were at the finish line, and they were handing out the headbands, and it did feel like something, and I think I actually forgot that. So I hope people listening, because you know we love to give you guys a really hard time about the things we don't like, and not enough microwaves in the pit and all the rest of it. But like, I hope people listening get like, this is what you were talking about is the real 1,000-foot view, the real like how to improve a product. And I think people, including me, we get on you guys, we see the things we don't like, we pick apart the whatever. And you know, that's some real thought. Like, because again, I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. You get in, you stop, someone asks you what you want, there's a table, it's a whole thing. And yeah, there used to be this experience of you fucking did it, man. You spent the 4 hours. I mean, I you know, not that you can't have that experience with a 10K headband, but I think I get what you're saying.
I think there are a couple pieces here where who's that character in The Simpsons? You know, the bad fella.
The what?
No, Smithers' his boss. You know, the
Mr.
evil
Burns.
Mr. Burns. That's the one. Nailed it. I come on something like this and I say we've got to make cage crawl terrifying again. And cage crawl at Atlanta, particularly where the water was topped up, just absolutely spot on. And there's this assumption that comes that we're just sitting here and we're like, well, we don't really know what to do, so it's all about just being like cruel and unusual punishment. And being cruel is putting Arctic Enema immediately before Mudderhorn, with Mudderhorn on the top of a hill with wind going, right? It's just cruel punishment. That's not what we're trying to do, but we're really serious as we reflect on what made Tough Mudder just so impactful, and the fact that people stand up there and say, I overcome all fears. We don't make it scary. There is no fear to overcome. There's no real sense that you knew it was going to be terrifying. You saw people queuing up. You saw people freaking out and having to get up out of cage crawl, and you still went in. And you had to control that feeling as you got through. And then it's when you get out the other side, having made the decision to commit and having controlled yourself through, that's when you get a connection, which then compounds and compounds and compounds over, you know, the hours that you're out in course, culminates in that headband crowning, which adds up to an experience that is not easily replicatable anywhere else. And if we fall short of that, the risk is Tough Mudder becomes a fun run. And whilst there's a lot of value in fun runs, that's not really who we are or what we're trying to achieve with the brand.